I'm back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another collaboration beer, this time between Brujos Brewing and Ruse Brewing, both of which are out of Portland, Oregon, and this is their Wolfenthrone, the 2025 release. So this is a double dry hopped West Coast IPA that comes in at 7.3% alcohol by volume, 70 IBUs at the time of review. And this can is approximately 6.5 weeks old. And I picked this one up at Halftime Beverage via halftimebeverage.com. So in the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail boxing video I did that contains all the goodies that I grabbed, and I picked up 31 beers in total, 7 of which are from Brujos, and 5 of those are hop forward, 4 of them West Coast hop forward beers, and this is the first of the bunch that I'm reviewing. And over here on Instagram, I do have the hops that they say they brew with. So they brewed this one for the first time back in February of 2024. However, they brought it back in February of this year. And yeah, so this one is featuring Citra Cryo, Citra DynaBoost, Mosaic Cryo, Simcoe, Nelson, and Krush, aka HBC 586. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and more so because a couple of good friends of mine and viewers of the channel, Curtis and Christopher, both said they've had this one and thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I trust both of their palates. Curtis and I talk a lot, and he said he really enjoyed this one. So I'm looking forward to this one. We'll give it a go. I paid a pretty penny. They were expensive at Halftime Beverage. We'll talk about it at the end, but if it's delicious, then it's well worth it. So I'm thinking this is more of like a new school kind of West Coast IPA, based on the fact that you got Nelson in there. You got, DynaBoost, but you also have, for the most part, some old school hops, but you have Krush too. That's not old school. That's not an old school hop bill. So how does that one look? Well, I would say it looks somewhat hazy. It's a little bit clear. You can see the shadow of my hand maybe make it out a little bit, but it's not crystal clear. So it has that nice golden yellow color with some like orange tinges to it. Has about I'd say more of like a finger and a half of a soap sudsy, bright white colored head. Now let me bust out the light here and see if you guys can see anything different. Now what you're seeing on camera is basically what I'm seeing in person. If I'm being honest with you, it's very, very akin to what I'm seeing. Yeah, it looks nice. It looks like sunshine in the glass. You hold it up to the light. So let's get a nose. This is almost 7 weeks old, and it smells like it's 7 days old. Dude, this, you know what this reminds me of? That Wicked Willie's that Curtis told me to review from Fatheads. It has the same kind of like tropical stone fruit citrus, just like almost like a juiciness. But then I get pine. I get almost like a zesty kind of pine. Zesty citrus and pine. It has a dankness to it. A little bit of like white grape, white wine. Dare I say gooseberries? I don't say that often because I've only had gooseberries once, and I don't even know if they're actual authentic gooseberries. They might have been just like American gooseberries or gooseberry-esque. There is a ton of juicy orange, grapefruit. There's even like a little bit of a lemon lime. Tons of citrus in the nose. But then I get a nice like juicy peach, juicy mango. There's pineapple. There's that white grape I was talking about. And then the exotic fruits that I've been mentioning a lot with these new school West Coast IPAs, like passion fruit. When I say exotic, I mean passion fruit isn't one of those fruits that I think a lot of people go to the store and be like, oh, I'm just going to eat a ton of passion fruit. A lot of us have had them. I've had a lot of weird fruits over the past 10 to 15 years because I'm trying to better my palate for reviewing purposes and just what I'm tasting in beer. So passion fruit is absolutely delicious. But like passion fruit, guava, lychee, the aforementioned gooseberry. I could just make up shit and be like, dragon fruit's in here. It might be, but I've never consumed a dragon fruit, believe it or not. It just smells so tropical, so citrus heavy, juicy, fruity, but it still retains that dank pine kind of resinous quality to the nose. Maybe a smidge of like a white bread kind of malt character. Dude, this smells... I can see why Curtis and Christopher love this one, because in the nose, this is screaming absolutely just a phenomenal beer. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. What the fuck? Wow. So I am surprised at the level of bitterness in the taste, because the nose didn't give me a huge indication that this was going to be very bitter. But it is a West Coast IPA. And some people get tricked, like new school, new school West Coast IPAs aren't as bitter as old school. No, they can be. They definitely can be. Maybe not to those crazy, like, what was it, like 1,000 IBUs from a pallet wrecker from Green Flash, or 1,000 IBUs, I forget the brewery, or a lot of like the old school, like Ruination from Stone and stuff. Those were shocking to the palate because there wasn't really anything like that. While this isn't nearly as bitter as those, or like over the top, this is fucking super bitter, and I like it. Body for 7.3%. I'd say a touch over medium. I'm fine with it. The mouthfeel is old school. This is incredibly crisp. It is very, very crisp on the palate. It's super clean. This is a clean beer through and through. There is almost no residual sugar on the back of the palate. It's so dry, it's so bitter, and it's just clean fermentation, clean finish, the whole nine. Crisp, clean, and dare I say crushable, despite the high bitterness. Like, I just want to go back to get rid of the dryness mostly. Dude, this is fucking delicious. The taste, it's almost as complex as the nose was. First thing that hits me is the white bread, which would maybe be a little bit surprising to you because I was talking about that like as one of the last characteristics I was getting in the nose, the aromatics. But it hits me right at the forefront, dives underneath the palate. I say this in so many reviews, but it's true. Like, I get on tip of the tongue, I get a little bit of white bread, dives underneath the palate, and then it kind of reemerges on the finish just ever so slightly. But right after that, waves of zippy, zesty, pithy citrus. So it's not super juicy orange and grapefruit and lemon lime. It's more of the rind, the pith, the peel. It's bittering. This is one of the more bitter beers I've had in recent memory because it almost starts about a quarter of the way through the palate on my tongue. Most of the bitterness for me hits midway to the finish of the palate. Like, I'm left with a bitterness. This one starts almost like about a quarter through the palate, and it hits me with like this pithy kind of citrus bitterness right in the middle of the tongue too, and it just keeps on going. And then, but on top of that is riding waves of, there's peach, there's mango, that aforementioned passion fruit, the white grapes from the Nelson, and then it has, and I've said this before, and I know Curtis has gotten it too before, it has like a white wine dryness. If you ever had a really dry white wine, that's kind of what the dryness is on this beer. It's like a white wine dryness. It also has a big, dank, resinous pine, a little bit of floral character on the back of the palate. The bitternesses on this one is firm. This is firm. This is not mild to moderate. It's not moderate, not touch over moderate. This is firm. This is extremely bitter for me, but I love it. Right now, my tongue is devoid of saliva from the dryness, but also there's a huge bitterness that has built up, which is great. But the flavors are so clean. Like, I want to go back because kind of like that dryness kind of wipes everything out. So is the bitterness. And it's just like, all right, let me go back in. That's fucking delicious. Yes, it is. Oh, there it goes. Everything's just kind of fading away. Awesome. This is an awesome beer. Listen, Brujos gets a lot of hype, and I've had a couple beers from them already before this order from Halftime Beverage. One of them lived up to the hype. The other one was good, but not great. Like many hype breweries, you know, until you try them yourself, you really don't know if the hype is real. And I still don't know for Brujos if the hype is justified in my own mind. For you, it might be. You might have been drinking, Brujos the last year or two. I mean, like, yeah, it's fantastic. But I'm sure they make some beers that aren't for everyone. But this one is for me, 100%. So we'll see what the rest of the beer mail entails. I do have a couple lagers that I'm curious to see how they are. But yeah, this is a winner. 7.3%, absolutely no detection of the alcohol on the palate. I'm not saying this is a perfect beer because it isn't. There could be some things better. I do like here's the thing. Is that it? Why I like the bitterness, I do think personally a little bit less bitterness would be nice. And I know that's something that I've been talking about more as I'm getting into West Coast IPAs because I do like the bitterness and the dryness and I need that. This might be a little bit too bitter for me to like be able to drink a couple cans of this, or maybe even towards the end of the glass. Like I've said with hazies recently, if they're too sweet by the end of the glass, I'm like, oh, I'm done with that. I'm sick of it. That might happen here. It might be a bit too much bitterness, but that's just a personal preference. But beer is subjective, and I've talked about this before. A lot of you guys have commented recently. I've had some comments where people like Double Sunshine from Lawson's versus Sip. I had like 3 or 4 people say Sip is better, and the other people say that Double Sunshine's better. Who's right? Everyone. Because you enjoy what you enjoy. But for me, a little less bitterness. I'm going crazy. And I think for me, maybe a little bit better body. The mouthfeel is fantastic. But this is a fucking fantastic beer to me. It really is. So Wolfenthrone, the 2025 release from Brujos, also fantastic label art. I'm going to give this a low 4.75. I'm going to go 4.7. Yeah, this is fucking divine is what this is. And look at that label art. Isn't that fantastic? I love the label art. I think it's top tier, honestly. It's pretty fucking awesome. So, yeah. We're going to say 4.7 out of 5. And I remember seeing Curtis check this one on Tapped. I think he gave it a similar score. Might have been not exactly 4.7, but something around there. I agree with him, like 100%. So damn good. Now, I paid $9.49 for that can. That's outrageous. Almost $10 for 7.3% West Coast IPA. The only reason I did, and the reason I picked up the Brujos beers is, A, they're pretty hyped. I like to try more of their stuff. There was a lot of West Coast beers, and I don't know if Halftime Beverage is going to have them ever again. I have no idea. So I thought, why not buy what I can and talk about the price point later. I would imagine at the brewery, this is probably like $20 4-pack, maybe $22 4-pack. So I probably paid like double the price you would pay for a single can. But here's the thing, for a second time, I don't have to trade on the secondary. I don't have to find someone to send it to me. I don't have to buy it on the secondary, which probably would be much more than $9.49 for a can. So all that put together, I'm okay with paying that. Not everyone's going to be. Would I buy this for $9.49 a can again? Ooh, don't know. I guess we'll see. And availability, it's Brujos. It's typically like brewery only in Portland, but they are getting into Halftime Beverage. I think they might even be, maybe they had a Tavor drop. They're starting to get out of the Portland area. So kind of like sometimes random places will see Fidens, for example. Who knows? Maybe in the next 6 months to a year, you'll see Brujos at your local bottle shop or maybe more online stores. I have no idea. All I know is this is a fucking delicious beer. And yeah, 7.3%, nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There's nothing on the palate, nothing in the chest, whatever. This is a world-class new school West Coast IPA or borderline, I'd say world-class new school West Coast IPA. Absolutely fantastic. Love everything about this. It's just so good. Yeah, I'd also want maybe a little bit more of that like piney, floral kind of resinous hop. It's more dank than that. So again, little minor tweaks to this one, and it's probably a 5 out of 5. But as is, it's fucking delicious. So if you've had this one before, please post in the comment section and let me know what you thought about it. I already know what Curtis and Christopher thought about it, and I'm right there with you, boys. I don't let people's own opinions influence me or hype me up to the point where I'm just going to give this a high score. A lot of you guys know I try to be as honest as I can with these reviews, and this reminds me of Wicked Willie's, like I said, from Fatheads, but a more pronounced bitterness, but also more like a concentrated hop saturation on the palate. Like you can tell this is very vibrant, very, dare I say, bright. Shout out to Joe over at Joe's Arcade. Bright is bright, right, Joe? But it does. It just has that brightness to it and like the vibrancy that I seek out of a beer like this. So it's fucking delicious. 4.7 out of 5. So anyway, shut this one down. We got more Brujos on the way. Check back soon for another beer review. And until then, cheers.